So, does this sound familiar to you? It is Monday morning and you're sitting in front of your laptop asking yourself, did I choose the right words last week, or will I look stupid in today's huddle when I have to explain them? Am I a good UX writer, like in general? Is this the right job for me? Am I in the right place? Or am I just a fluffy, puffy, disoriented tennis ball that is just rolling around on the rooftop of a 30-story skyscraper, and that is just one light breeze away from falling down into the endless abyss of eternal failure? Now, imposter syndrome is super common among UX writers, but we're not tennis balls and we deserve better, so let's talk about this. Hey everyone, my name is Kat and I teach people about writing in tech, and on this channel you will find everything that you need to know about, especially UX writing. So if you want to learn more about all of that, make sure you hit subscribe and ring the bell. So, we will talk about imposter syndrome today. And by imposter syndrome, we mean, per definition, the condition of feeling anxious and not experiencing success internally, despite being high performing in external objective ways. This condition often results in people feeling like a fraud or a phony and doubting their abilities. We also know that with imposter syndrome, a person doesn't feel confident or competent regardless of what they achieve. They don't experience the joy of success because they are always waiting for their inadequacy and fraudulence to come to light. Now, in UX writing, imposter syndrome can be quite common. Why is that so? Well, because it's a new discipline and there are no clear career paths. Return on investment is hard to measure. There is AI and we don't know if it will take away our jobs or not. There are tech layoffs everywhere, etc. So all of this can create an environment for us that can make us feel insecure and vulnerable, and may even give us the feeling that we're not ever good enough to survive in this environment, because it can be tough. Now, before we start talking about how to fight imposter syndrome, we have to agree on this one big truth, okay? Imposter syndrome is a sign of a lack of confidence, not a lack of skills. I repeat, imposter syndrome is a sign of a lack of confidence, not a lack of skills. So maybe you have worked as a UX writer for even a decade and you still feel it, even though you're very skilled and knowledgeable, okay? This is solely about confidence. And therefore, in order to see how we can reduce the effect of imposter syndrome, we first have to ask ourselves, why are we not confident in our UX writing decisions? Sometimes it's because nothing in the world could ever make us feel confident about our writing decisions. Literally nothing. And we could be the best UX writers in the world and would still experience this kind of self-doubt. Let's call this unreasonable self-doubt, okay? And on the other hand, we may also not trust our writing decisions because there might be good reasons for that. Let's call this reasonable self-doubt. And let's start by talking about this. Now, reasonable self-doubt might mean that you are a good, brilliant UX writer, but you don't have full control over the quality of your UX copy. You just have a feeling and intuition of finding the right words at the right time, but you don't have a structured process, a certain approach to UX writing. So you know that it's kind of just a matter of time when you will not be able to find the right words. That happens to a lot of UX writers who kind of slid into UX writing almost by accident. So who, for example, were the content writers of their company, and then all of a sudden they were also made responsible for the UX writing. But they didn't really learn the theory, the principles, and never established a professional structured approach to their UX writing process. Now, if you feel like you are experiencing imposter syndrome, check for this first issue first, okay? I know this may hurt a little, but check for reasonable self-doubt first and ask yourself, do you do enough research before writing UX copy? Do you have processes and systems in place that let you write good UX copy regardless of the situation, regardless of whether the right words come to your mind or not, regardless of how you feel that day? Because if you don't, then this may cause you not to feel confident in your writing decisions. And to overcome this feeling, make sure you have processes and systems in place that save you on a bad day, okay? Or when you face a difficult UX writing challenge. Just establish a structured approach that works for you. Do your homework. Prepare yourself, do your research. No matter what you do in life, okay? Whether it is writing UX copy or presenting it or meeting with a client, do your research. Collect all the information about the brand you write for, the products you write for, the target audience. your competitors, etc. And only when you have a solid understanding of all of that, you should make writing decisions. And trust me, this will help you a lot with establishing confidence as a writer, especially compared to writing just words that come to your mind and that are based on no objective criteria. But typical imposter syndrome is not exactly that, okay, as we've learned from the definition. Imposter syndrome means that you feel like a fraud even though you are great at what you do and you do everything that you can to be great at what you do, but you still feel like a failure that is about to be uncovered in just a minute. And of course, there are also several possible reasons for that. So maybe you tend to rely a lot on external validation, but currently you work for someone who just doesn't praise their team. Or maybe you're just overly stressed out in general, and the smallest worry, the tiniest insecurity throws you off the track. So as I said, the reasons for why you may experience imposter syndrome can vary, but there are a couple of things that may help you with feeling more confident about yourself and your work. Now, important disclaimer right here. This is not textbook knowledge, okay? This is what helped me personally because I have been affected by imposter syndrome since the earliest moments of my career, especially when I started going to university. I'm the first person of my family who went to university, so I've never had this strong academic background in my family, and I used to feel like an outsider in university, even though I did really well at university, but I had never felt like I belonged there. I remember, for example, on the day I had the final exam of my PhD program, okay? An oral exam during which I was able to answer all the questions perfectly fine. I remember before receiving my final grades and learning whether or not I would receive my doctoral degree or not, I was thinking to myself, this is the moment when I finally turn out to be in the wrong place. This is when I will learn that I didn't make it. And then I made it. And even after I was told I made it and people said their congratulations, I couldn't believe it. And even weeks and months after that, I thought that my professors would just have felt sorry for me if they hadn't awarded me the title. And it took me years and years to internalize that I wasn't just given the title out of sympathy, but that I had actually earned it. And the feeling of not deserving to be in the spot that I was in kept sticking around during my first big corporate communication jobs. And it reached new heights when I entered the field of UX writing because I was in a new field and in a new environment. And in addition to my unreasonable self-doubt, I also experienced reasonable self-doubt because indeed, in the beginning, I had absolutely no clue what I was doing. So imposter syndrome has become an incredibly loyal companion to me, but it doesn't stress me out anymore because I've learned how to deal with it, okay? So here are my top tricks to handle it. The first piece of advice is become aware of the situation, okay? Learn how to interpret your feelings and also learn that your feelings are not the reality you live in. They are just feelings that result from your interpretation of reality. So you feeling like a fraud is just you feeling like a fraud, not you being a fraud. Now, something else that has helped me a lot is de-emotionalized feedback. Now, what do I mean by that? As I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons why you may experience imposter syndrome is that your confidence strongly relies on external validation. And that means that positive feedback will take you to great heights and boost your confidence, and negative feedback will drag you down. So your confidence relies on what others give to you. So you need positive feedback to feel good about your work and yourself. And there are several big problems with that. One, you're absolutely dependent on the people around you and the way they feel about you and the way they communicate and even how their day goes. Two, not everybody who gives you feedback has an actual clue about UX writing. So sometimes this feedback doesn't tell you anything about the actual quality of your work. It may even be misleading. And three, because external feedback pushes your emotions so much, it makes you feel all these emotions and you won't be able to see the essence of that feedback, which again won't allow you to really learn from it. You're just happy or sad about it. So what I suggest is this. Take a notebook or a Miro board or whatever and collect the feedback that you get, but rephrase it. Make it less emotional and more constructive, more outcome focused. So let's say a client tells me, you work too slowly. What in the world are you doing with all that time? That is harsh feedback, and when I read it over and over again, it might make me angry or insecure or frustrated because it sounds like an insult, right? So what I do is this. I take this ugly quote and boil it down to the essence of it, which is client doesn't understand why a certain task takes a certain time. And that takes the emotion and the blame out of it and gets to the core of the problem. And that allows me to work with it, right? And I do the same with positive feedback. I take all the emotions out of it. I collect feedback from users, from my coworkers, from students of my online courses, especially from peers, whatever. I rephrase it, I collect it, and then I cluster it. And that also helps me especially to identify what I'm actually good at and where my skill set could indeed, need some improvements. And all of that makes it very fact-based and nuanced. And it takes away from the vague, you're not good enough to be here. The thing that imposter syndrome does to us. I mean, what in the emotional dumpster fire does that even mean? I'm not good enough. Like, good enough for what? Why? And I feel that this method, de-emotionalizing feedback, with that we pin down imposter syndrome and we ask it, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm not good enough? What does that mean? And then it says, oh, well, your client says you write too slowly. And then I go, no. My client just doesn't understand why I take the time that I take. And there's a difference, baby, because that just means that I didn't set the right expectations. And I can definitely work on that. But it's not only about feedback from others. Another root cause of imposter syndrome is that we are sometimes not able to really acknowledge or even comprehend our successes. And that might be because there is a difference between what is considered a success to the outside world and what really feels like success. So you might, for example, have established UX writing as a new core discipline in your company, or developers and designers and researchers consult you and only you for UX copy matters. And now, thanks to you, this company has UX writing awareness, UX writing processes, templates, etc. But you didn't get a raise, you didn't get promoted. Maybe you even got laid off after achieving that. So all of that might not feel like a success in total, but you know what? You still did that. And every UX writer knows how incredibly hard that is. And you did it. But sometimes we take these things for granted. We consider it part of our job, but you've worked hard for it. And this success doesn't come naturally. You've earned it. And you know what? I bet you know that, but it's not one of those successes that you might brag to your Aunt Janet about, right? Or maybe you do brag to Aunt Janet about it, but she doesn't know that that is a major achievement. So she just goes like, oh, cool, okay. And that makes us feel like we didn't achieve anything great here. Now, what I want you to do is write these things down on a daily basis, okay? So next time a developer comes to you and asks you how to write a good error message, and you explain it to her, and she says, okay, now I got it, and that makes you happy, then I want you to write that down, okay? Write it down, because these are the moments when we feel most proud of ourselves, and in order to acknowledge our success in the long run, we have to become aware of these moments, these tiny moments in which we truly feel successful, okay? Not only when we hit those classic major milestones. So definitely write that down, take a selfie, document it in your journal, take a screenshot or whatever. Just make sure you document it and also make it a habit to go through these things regularly to see how far you've come. Next, based on all of that, keep on learning. Make time for learning each and every week because first of all, generally speaking, learning new things is a growth hack for becoming more confident. You will have all of these new aha moments, all of these little moments of, oh, I see. And that will feel like small successes that will make you become aware of your knowledge and skills. Also, imposter syndrome will probably not disappear overnight when you become a senior, but it gets better with time. And this, to a large extent, is due to the fact that we gain experience and knowledge as we navigate through our career. I mean, we spend about 8 to 10 hours working at our job every day. Of course, we become better and more confident over time. However, you should definitely actively push this process by making a point out of learning new things on a regular basis. And I don't necessarily mean, reading blog posts and adding a piece of knowledge to your existing knowledge base. I talk about learning something practically. So applying a new method, testing a new tool, etc. Because only with these experiences, we show our brain that we have indeed learned something, and that can really boost your confidence. And by the way, that doesn't only apply to things you learn for your job. You don't need to learn something new as a means to an end, okay? The learning process itself will boost your confidence. So maybe try learning another language just out of interest, not because you need it, just to learn something new and become aware of what you're capable of, okay? I, for example, as a challenge to learn something that is not useful, started learning the Klingon language with the help of YouTube videos. This really gave me a confidence boost because it really was a challenge and I had so many tiny moments of success. And my last piece of advice, I know this sounds kind of cliche, but take a step back because we are only talking about work here, right? Here's a thought I would like you to entertain. Let's imagine it's not imposter syndrome, but you're actually really just not perfect at doing your job and you make mistakes. You don't always write good copy. Friends, you're not your job. You're a human being who is shaped by your character traits, your values, maybe your faith, your interests, your empathy, the way you inspire others, or the way you support others, okay? Your humor, whatever. I'm a writer by heart. I love writing. I live and breathe writing. And if I don't write, I read. But I'm also a person of faith. I love teaching. I love traveling in nature. I love climbing mountains. I love cooking and hosting dinner parties. So I'm more than just a UX writer, especially for the people I care most about. So we are all more than our jobs, okay? So don't let it get too close to you if you mess things up every once in a while, okay? It's just part of being a human being, okay? Work on becoming better at what you do, but please also realize that this is a journey that has no final destination, okay? And you will probably not reach a moment in your life where you don't make a single mistake at your job. So breathe a little, acknowledge yourself, celebrate yourself, forgive yourself, and enjoy learning. I think those are good words to end this video. So as always, if you have any questions or if you want to share your experiences, let me know in the comments, okay? Feel free to share your thoughts with me. For example, has imposter syndrome ever been a problem to you? And maybe you also have some tips and tricks to share that helped you and can help others to get rid of it. So feel free to do exactly that. And other than that, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, where I also share free tips and tricks about UX writing. And of course, keep on writing, enjoy the process, and I hope to see you sometime soon.